When I'm not aspiring to the kind of wealth where I can be the household that keeps little bowls of cashews around, I like to answer questions and comments that I get off YouTube, so let's get to it. While that seems doable, I can't seem to make the pentatonic sound musical. I will try this and hopefully be more encouraged to try to solo. So the last couple videos, I focused a little bit more on lead playing. And one question that I've been getting a lot is like, okay, cool, I can see the fretboard a little bit better, but I can't make it musical, all right? So today I want to just talk about how to incorporate a lot of different methodologies into one exercise that'll sound musical where you're also practicing. And I think it comes with like having a chord to anchor what you're doing and then exploring the fretboard beyond that chord. Okay, so you don't need a looper pedal or anything like that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with one chord. We're gonna do this in the key of D, right? We're gonna start with the D major 7 chord. You play D major, whatever. But basically we're gonna start off with something like this. Incorporate like a lot of different ideas here. All right, so in the last couple videos I've been working on 3 notes per string kind of scales and methods, right? So if we have this D major 7 chord, which is 5A, 7D, 6G, 7B, the scale starting on a D that would go with it looks like this. If we just take these 3 strings and 3 notes per string, so we've got 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, 6, 7, 9. Okay, now the previous video talking about this, I talked really about the 5 chord. Now in the key of D, D, E, F, G, A is the 5 chord, right? The nice thing about the way guitar is set up, you can just go 1 string lower. If you're on the A string, its 5th is always going to be on the string below it, right? So the nice thing about A's shape in this key is it's super symmetrical, right? That's what we were talking about earlier, where it's just 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9. But we haven't really talked about stuff that a lot of people already know, which is the minor pentatonic scale shape, okay? So we're going to tie all these into each other, but we need one more chord, and we're going to get the 6th chord in the key of D, which is B minor 7. Really easy to play, just 7th fret right here. I'm just getting my middle finger on the 7th fret of the E string, skipping the A string, 7 all the way down, D, G, and B. And this is going to go with the minor pentatonic shape starting on a B. So 7, 10, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10. So that's all the information that we need right now. And we're going to turn this into like a really cool lesson where we're going to establish an anchor chord. We're going to play just a chord for a bar, and then we're going to have the following bar be something where we're exploring the shape, whether it's 3 notes per string, an arpeggio, a trick or a tip or a lick or something like that, or minor pentatonic. So for example, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm establishing that first 4 count with just a chord. And then the second 4 count is me just kind of maybe going through the scale. I can do it in a couple different ways. We'll have a few more examples. But first, I do want to say this video is sponsored by Sweetwater and Walrus. What you're hearing is really just, I think, a great tone for a guitar. It's just a little bit of their compressor and a little bit of their R1 reverb. Sounds great. Affiliate links are in the description if you guys are interested. But again, what I'm doing here is I'm getting the root note, the chord, and then maybe just kind of like a percussive strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that 4 count in the first bar is space, allowing my brain to get to the next spot, or maybe I'm using these notes in some way where I'm kind of moving them around, not in order, but making it a little more musical, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay? So, it's a way that you can kind of structure really exploring stuff, and then if you're hearing what you're doing, you're kind of creating these patterns and muscle memory, and your ears are just getting better. So that's going to be the first chord in our progression. Then we're going to go to the 5 chord in this key, A major. One way that I like to play this chord in this key is leaving the B string and E string open on top. I just think it sounds super pretty. Or where it's just not even a bar chord, but it looks like a bar chord shape where it's 5E, 7A, 7D, 6G. And then again, I'm using this shape where it's just the 5th fret, the 7th fret, and the 9th fret on the E, A, and D strings. Couldn't be easier, but I'm also gonna add some double stops, which I talked about in the previous lesson, where we just have this one shape that repeats, right? That root note, a whole step, and then the same thing down a string. If we do that on the octave right here, we can get that same shape and then move it and start it on the 12th fret again. So if I wanted to do something cool with double stops, I could maybe play the chord 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start here with these double stops. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was just an A's position. So now we have a little chord progression. It's just D major, 7 to A. You can make it A dominant 7 if you want. And we're incorporating a lot of different things, whether it's 3 notes per string scale shapes, whether it's kind of that little trick that I was talking about in the other video, where you just have these repetitive symmetrical shapes that we can kind of see all over the neck. Right? Another thing you could do is just remember open 2, 4, open 2, 4. Start that same shape again on the 5th fret. Which again, you can see that as an extension of the shape, or you can see that as starting the D major scale. It doesn't matter what methodology you're using to find these notes. What matters is that you're using these notes, but then trying to make it sound musical within the context of anchoring them with a chord and then kind of exploring through it. So let's go to everybody's favorite one, minor pentatonic. That's going to be the relative minor in the key of D, right? If you have watched these videos before, you'll know that always lands on the 6th note in a key. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be a B. So again, there's that minor pentatonic shape. So we're going to add the B minor 7 chord to it, right? So after this, let's do it in context. So you'll hear how there will be a minor pentatonic sound to that B minor chord, right? So starting with the D. See how that sounds like minor pentatonic? Because I'm just kind of going into that frame of thinking because that's my spot. And now you can actually go there in any of the other ones. Let's actually go to the minor pentatonic shape. But let's do it over maybe A's position. So we start with the D. When I go to the B minor, I can use any of the other shapes. Right there, I was thinking of D's shape in the scale, right? So that kind of puts me in these little boxes. So I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, what is this really doing? Well, we're not thinking about playing scales because then it sounds like we're playing scales. We're using the shapes and using all sorts of different shapes combined, but anchoring them to a chord first, which is what makes it musical, right? Really, all music is a chord with some kind of melody over it, right? So melodies generally come from scales. Chords are built from scales, but using a selective few amount of notes, right? So if you can start practicing where you combine chords and scales, and however you think of the scales, again, whether they're arpeggios, licks, 3 notes a string, traditional whatever, middle pinky index, ring pinky, and then that cool little thing that I was talking about, double stopping, pentatonics, Doesn't matter. It'll sound more musical once you anchor with a chord, follow up with the melody, and then I think you'll notice that your ears really get better over time, because that's something that like really truly helps me out. So give it a shot and see what happens. Any of the Martins come close that you may have played when you did the tour? So this was a question on a video that I titled "The Best Guitar I Have Ever Played," which I 100% stand by it, Taylor A16 CE. And now this begs the question: the best guitar I've ever played and my favorite guitar I've ever played, okay? I really think that the 816, from form versus function, playability, intonation, all this stuff, is the best one that I've ever played. But I would 100% trade this for that Elliott Smith guitar that I played at the Martin Museum. If you didn't see any of those videos, I had the opportunity to go check out the Martin Museum, and they just unlocked it for me because it was still closed down due to COVID at that point. So they just let me play basically all the guitars. So it is so hard to compare like just kind of like a modern masterpiece of mass-produced guitar manufacturing like this is with like a 1942 D45, right? They're so different. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the Martin guitars specifically, and if you saw my video the other day, I was using my D35 and I used it for the live stream too. It's like there's just something so like the heritage of that guitar is so cool, how they kind of keep the building process essentially the same as it was back in like the 40s. So it feels like you have a vintage instrument, and you can't manufacture that feeling any better than they do. But it's definitely different than something like this. So again, I don't even want to take a side just because they're two totally different and cool instruments that both have their own feel, but it's all good. So some of those ones that at the Martin Guitar Factory that I played definitely rival and beat the mojo of something like this. But if you take away like the historical nature and like the aging of the woods and all this stuff, I think this is just an awesome guitar to be able to kind of like gig on a daily basis. Hey man, could you make a video of how to play the Sweet Child of Mine song like you played it in that video? That was awesome. So let's do the real quick 1-minute lesson on how to play Sweet Child of Mine, all right? This was on a video that I posted with me and Pasha, the awesome violin player that I gig with a lot. And we just did kind of like an impromptu version. It's a super simple song when you break it down to it. And real quick, 1-minute version, it sounds like this. Now again, you probably wouldn't even like know that this was the song if you didn't hear the melody, like da 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 da. But I really think it's easy to do because it's in the key of G, a 5-4-1 in the key of G, the way that I'm playing it, because that's what I was asked to teach, not the official way to do it. So we've got like a 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 strumming pattern. Okay, so D major 7, that first chord that we played in the original example, but now I'm going 1 2 and 3 and 1 2 and 3 and 4 5. Again, it's in 4, but when you count it like that, you kind of get a little bit more of the vibe, right? Because you can kind of sing the count. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 C 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5. That same shape down G. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 D. Okay, so just D C G D, and then for the second part, A C D. Just one bar of A, 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5, one bar of C major 7, 3 3 2, open all the way, and then slide that down 2 frets to do kind of like a D major type vibe, right? Now, if you want to learn the official way that I played it in the video with Janelle Garcia, which has a ton of views online, I actually teach that on my Patreon, and that sounds more like this. That's a longer lesson, but it sounds like this. So it adds the melody to it, like I said. But I'll link you to my Patreon in case you're interested. But again, D, C, G, D, A, C, D, D. Blues should be played in open tunings, not standard. Getting a downvote from me. I've gotten some salty blues comments in my time, but blues should only be played in open tunings? Like, this is insane. For a man who's clearly obsessed with pandas by his avatar, I don't get it. Do people agree with this? Blues is only meant to be played in open tunings? If not, I've been doing it all wrong. Wow, this is great, but I already learned the pentatonic major and the major scale pretty much in every key. This would have saved me a lot of time. Dude, your stuff is great. How about doing a video on being just plain nervous when you play in front of people? I'd rather play in front of 1,000 people than just 1 or 2. Weird, right? It almost seems like, yeah, when you're first starting out, playing in front of like 1 or 2 people, like just like is being put on the spot. Whereas if you just got put onto a stage in front of 1,000 people, it might seem like it's better. But the best thing that I can say, because I was super nervous for every show that I played when I first started out, is that performing is just like practicing scales on an instrument where you have to get reps. The more reps that you get, the easier it becomes over time. Like, again, I remember it didn't matter if I was just playing for... Yeah, I always hated playing for my friends and family. It was always easier to play in front of strangers than it was in front of people that I know. I've gotten definitely better at that over time. But I just remember being so nervous before shows. Like, I almost felt like even just like setting up and getting ready to like play at like a venue or a restaurant even, I was like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna want to like hear this? I felt like kind of like embarrassed and like self-conscious. But then doing it for hundreds and hundreds of shows, you just realize it's like, you know, people aren't, they're already out, they're somewhere, they're generally not going to be salty. They generally don't even care whether you show up or not, so just show up and just do your thing, and like I said, get the reps of just going out and doing it, and then eventually it just becomes second nature, and nothing really bothers me anymore as far as getting nervous and stuff, just because I've got those reps in, got those hours in. Congrats on 400,000 subscribers. Yeah, thank you to everybody who's subscribed and watched the videos over the years. 400,000 is like a mind-blowing number that I can't really even wrap my head around, but definitely kind of a cool milestone. So we celebrated that in a live stream the other day. But yeah, so thanks for your continued support, and I'll keep pumping out the vids. So for listening homework this week, I'm going to throw you just some of the new Bonobo stuff. Definitely one of my favorite, most chill artists around, and I'm glad that it's kind of like a return to form with his new stuff. So definitely check that out. Thank you again to Sweetwater and Walrus Audio for sponsoring the video. Get yourself a Walrus pedal or anything on Sweetwater, because again, they've been such a huge supporter of mine. All those clicks help out, even if it's just strings or whatever. And yeah, definitely check out the Patreon if you want to learn how to play that song with the melody. But if not, no worries. Just keep on rocking, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.